Dolphins fans, you're watching Dolphins Today. I am Will Scott. Appreciate you joining us for today's show. We had a big week last week in terms of growing the channel. Now we're trying to get to our next milestone. Help us get to 42,000 subscribers. Need 450 more. I'm trying to get there by the schedule release next Thursday. That's going to be next Thursday. We'll keep you posted on our live show schedule for next week. But that's going to be a lot of fun breaking down the schedule, trying to get there by the schedule release. YouTube.com/Dolphins News. That's a sub link, or just hit the subscribe button below. On today's show, we're talking about some free agent targets after the NFL draft. So the Dolphins filled some holes. I would have liked to have seen them take a tight end and offensive lineman a little bit earlier, but you still address some needs in the draft. But there are still some pressing needs on this football team, especially at offensive tackle. So let's take a look at the top 15 free agent targets after the NFL draft, starting with Matt Ioannidis, the defensive tackle from the Carolina Panthers. I thought the Dolphins might go D-line in this draft. They did not with their 4 picks. Now, you did sign Pillay, the defensive tackle from USC, got $100,000 guaranteed from the Dolphins, so he could maybe compete for that backup nose tackle job. He also signed as a UDFA Anthony Montalvo from UCF. Maybe he could compete for a spot on this roster, but you definitely need more defensive line depth because right now a UDFA is your backup nose tackle. I think if you sign Ioannidis, have him compete with some of these UDFAs for a spot on this roster, that would make a lot of sense. George Fant, the offensive tackle that spent last season with the New York Jets, he remains a target for the Dolphins. Now, he's not very high on my list because he's not very good. I think the Dolphins can do better here, but he has been linked to the Dolphins. Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald a few weeks ago saying that he could be a potential target. So we'll see. He's an option. He's still out there unsigned, but again, I think the Dolphins can do a lot better here in terms of bringing in a right tackle to compete for Austin Jackson. Like I said, we're trying to grow our channel here on Dolphins Today, and we need your help, and you can help by sharing this video to your Twitter account. Here's how you do it. Click the share button, select the Twitter icon, click post to Twitter, tag me on Twitter at WillScott44, and I will give you a shout-out on a future show if you do that. Also, retweet your tweet. I'd appreciate all of you sharing today's video. Michael Pruitt, the tight end, probably the best tight end left in free agency because the Dolphins did not draft a true tight end. Again, Elijah Higgins is a wide receiver from Stanford. They're going to try to convert him to a tight end. I think it's possible that Miami may look to add a cheap tight end, have him compete for Higgins for maybe the final roster spot. Last year, the Dolphins carried 5 tight ends on the initial 53. They don't even have 5 tight ends on the roster right now. Really, 3 true tight ends, and then Elijah Higgins as tight end 4. You also signed Julian Hill is a UDFA, and I really like the Campbell product, so we'll see if he can compete for a spot on this roster, but I would not rule out the Dolphins maybe signing a cheap tight end. I don't expect them to do it, but again, I would not rule it out. Name a free agent you want to sign. Go down in the comments section. Let me know. I'm assuming a lot of y'all are going to be typing some offensive linemen. We'll get to some more names here in a second. But we'll talk about a linebacker right now, Quan Alexander from the New York Jets. I've been following this guy since his senior year of high school. Went to high school in my home state of Texas, then went to LSU. I'm a big LSU football fan, so I've been watching this guy for a long time, and he's been a good NFL player. Was very productive for the Jets last year. 12 starts, nearly 70 tackles, 6 tackles for loss. I'm a little bit surprised that he's still out there and available in free agency. Zach Cunningham, someone else, somewhat of a big name here at the linebacker position, that remains unsigned. He was very productive with the Houston Texans, had a monster year in 2020 for Houston, nearly 170 tackles that season. Did not play that much last season in Tennessee, just 6 games played because of injuries, and then the Titans cut him in February. So he's still looking for a new home, and when you look at this linebacker depth chart, I think the Dolphins could still maybe use a little bit more depth when you're looking at this linebacker depth chart. This does include, by the way, the EDFAs that were signed. So you did not draft a linebacker, but you added Vanderberg, you added Garrett Nelson, you added Aubrey Miller, Charlton as well. Aubrey Miller's a stud. I mean, he might make this 53-man roster. So, again, this is kind of similar to what I said about a tight end. I don't expect the Dolphins to sign a linebacker, but because they did not draft one, it's not something you can rule out, and there's certainly some decent options out there like Alexander and Cunningham. This is an interesting name right here, and maybe the biggest name on our list of 15. Jadeveon Clowney, who spent the last couple of years with the Cleveland Browns, the former number 1 overall pick. Now, his production this past season in Cleveland was just not as high as in previous years. 2 sacks in 2022, 9 sacks in 2021, both seasons with the Browns. And it didn't end great in Cleveland. He criticized the team for stat padding Myles Garrett. I mean, that's just not something you can say. So he definitely comes with a little bit of baggage. Some people might say he's, locker room distraction, all this. I think he's a decent player still, and I think that he could be extremely cheap. He's already made a lot of money in the league. He's probably looking to go to a contender for the last couple of seasons of his NFL career. So we'll see what happens. Again, the Dolphins could use maybe a little bit more defensive line depth. Maybe Clowney will be an option. Do you want to sign Jadeveon Clowney? Type Y for yes or type in for no. I'm going to say no. Your edge rushers are really good. I'm going to prioritize defensive tackle instead of defensive end. I don't think you need Clowney. Maybe you need Brandon Shell back, who did a serviceable job for you as the starting right tackle. Austin Jackson went down. You signed Brandon Shell to practice squad. He gets elevated. Started 11 games for Miami last year. Again, just allowed 2 sacks. So he exceeded expectations. Can you do better than Shell? Yeah. But at the same time, bringing him back as a backup swing tackle, you're not going to find, at this point, a better backup swing tackle in the NFL in terms of free agency than Brandon Shell. I think adding him to this offensive line just to provide some depth would be pretty smart, actually. If you want to go center, Ben Jones is definitely the best center available in free agency. And what's appealing about signing Jones is his experience. 151 career starts, was outstanding in Tennessee. Now, much like Tua Tagovailoa, the concussions are a concern. He's had a couple concussions in his career, but if you sign him, if he's healthy, get him healthy, move Connor Williams to left guard, that offensive line looks a lot better. Akiem Hicks, the defensive lineman from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, someone who you could slot at defensive tackle. Kind of like Clowney, the numbers were a little bit down this year, but he would probably be very cheap. Probably could get him on a vet minimum deal, have him be a backup defensive tackle on that defensive line. Friend of the show, DJ Fluker, comes in at number 6 on our list. Had a blast talking with DJ a few weeks ago, and I think he's a great option here in free agency. Yeah, he has not played in an NFL game since 2020, but he is in great shape. He's gotten himself back into game shape. He's quite frankly in the best shape of his life right now, and we saw that on display at Alabama's Pro Day. Now, he did sign with the Dolphins prior to the 2021 season, but was released after tearing his meniscus. He has not played in an NFL game since. I believe that the Dolphins should give DJ Fluker a shot here to make this roster, and I think many of you watching would agree. Isaiah Wynn comes in at number 5 here. Spoiler alert. The top 6 are all offensive linemen, as they should be. And Wynn is certainly one of the best offensive tackles still available. Now, was a left tackle his first 3 seasons in the league, but spent more time at right tackle in 2021. Former first-round pick. We've seen him have success in New England. Did not have a great year this past year, but I still think he's a better option than, let's say, George Fant. Donovan Smith, someone else who remains available. A couple of y'all have hit me up about him. Now, in 2021, he was one of the best left tackles in the league. 83.3 grade protecting Tom Brady. This past year, 58.1 grade. I don't think he's 100%. If he can get back to 100%, maybe he can find that success again that we saw in 2021. But the upside is there when you're talking about Donovan Smith. Now, he hasn't played right tackle a lot. That's a concern I would have about him, but I think that's a transition that he might be interested in making just to get back on an NFL roster. Dalton Risner, definitely the best guard still available. I would be thrilled if the Dolphins signed him. Now, I have not seen him linked to Miami a lot, But Butch Berry, the Dolphins' new offensive line coach, was Risner's offensive line coach in Denver. You have that connection. But apparently the Broncos' offensive linemen were not thrilled with the job Butch Berry did last year. Just a rumor, but still, it's a rumor. We'll go from Dalton Risner to Taylor Lewan. This guy has gone up big time in terms of free agent targets because he said that the Dolphins have called him. He told that to Barstool's Frank Fleming during Barstool's draft weekend coverage. Chris Grier at his press conference on Saturday confirmed that call happened a few weeks ago. Lewan, very experienced, over 5,000 snaps at left tackle, but none at right tackle. Would he be willing to play right tackle in Miami? That's the big question with him. Also, some injury concerns. Also, a question with him. Number one, though, on my list is Cam Fleming. This absolutely has to happen. You have got to bring Fleming in. In fact, they brought him in for a visit last week. Sign the guy, Chris Grier. Get this done. He'd be a huge upgrade at right tackle. A 72.6 overall grade, 67.8 run blocking grade. His pass blocking grade actually higher, which is what you want. You want a good pass blocker there for Tua Tagovailoa. Do you want to sign Cam Fleming? Type S for sign or type P for pass down in the comment section. This guy has been my number one free agent target for a while. I believe the Dolphins should get this done. I feel a lot better about him at right tackle than Austin Jackson or anybody else you have on this roster right now. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. If the Dolphins make a move, we're certainly going to let you guys know.